Students, welcome back to our program for SSC CGL. Today we are going to discuss about simple interest and compound interest. We start with terminology. What is the terminology used in simple interest and compound interest? Now, first one is principal. Principal is denoted by P. And what is principal? Principal is the money borrowed. If I borrow 10,000 rupees, then principal will be 10,000 rupees. If I borrow 25,000 rupees, then principal will be 25,000 rupees. So principal is the money borrowed and it is denoted by P. And sometimes we can call the principal as sum also. So principal or sum, both are one and the same, and that is the money borrowed. Then time. Time is denoted by T. And time is the period for which money is borrowed. If I borrow money for 2 years, then time is 2 years. If I borrow money for 3 years, then time is 3 years, and it is denoted by T. Then R. R is rate of interest. Okay, so, but rate of interest is always expressed per annum. If nothing is specified, we can take it for granted that rate of interest will be per annum. Generally, if we go to a small-time money lender or pawnbrokers, they will charge rate of interest per month. But if you go to a bank or any other financial institution, major big financial institutions, the rate of interest is always given per annum. Okay, so rate of interest, R stands for rate of interest. Then I is also interest, but interest means it is expressed in rupees. Rate of interest is expressed in percentage. So R and I both represent interest, but R is expressed in terms of percentage and I is interest expressed in terms of rupees. Okay, then amount. Amount is denoted by A. Okay, then most of the students confused with principal and amount. They consider principal and amount as one and the same, but they are not same. Principal, as I already said, is the money borrowed, whereas amount is money borrowed plus interest. So if you add interest to money borrowed, then it will become amount. So we can write amount as principal plus interest. Okay? Can write amount as principal plus interest. So this is the terminology used for simple interest and compound interest. Principal, time, rate of interest, interest and amount. And amount is principal plus interest. Okay. Now the next point that we have to discuss is what is the difference between simple interest and compound interest? How simple interest works out and how compound interest works out. That is very important for you to know to solve the problems. Okay, so first next point that we are going to discuss is the difference between simple interest and compound interest. Okay. Now, I explain you what is simple interest and what is compound interest by taking a simple example. Now, let principal equal to rupees 100. Rate of interest is 10% per annum. So these are my assumptions. Principal 100 rupees, rate of interest 10% per annum. Then first I will calculate simple interest. First I calculate simple interest. What is the interest? What is the interest for first year? What is the simple interest for first year? Now, in simple interest, interest is calculated only on the principal, nothing else. In simple interest, we calculate interest only on the principal, nothing else. Okay. So, what is the interest for first year? 10% of 100, 10 rupees. Then what is the interest for second year? I am saying second year, I am not saying 2 years, I am saying second year. So what is the interest for second year? It is once again 10% of 100, 10 rupees. Then what is the interest for third year? What is the interest for third year? That is again 10% of 100, 10 rupees. Now, one of you may ask me, in the first 2 years, the 20 rupees interest is accumulated, and why are we not charging interest on these 20 rupees? No, we don't do that. In simple interest, interest is calculated only on the principal, nothing else. So, what is the interest for third year? 10% of 100, 10 rupees. And what is the interest for fourth year? What is the interest for fourth year? Again, it is 10% of 100, 10 rupees. So, why interest is same every year? Because in simple interest, interest is calculated only on the principal. And if I ask you what is the interest for all the 4 years put together, then all 4 years put together, the interest is 40 rupees. So, simple interest is very easy to calculate because interest is calculated only on the principal. Now, same example we will take for compound interest. So, compound interest, okay? Same example, principal 100 rupees, rate of interest 10% per annum. Now, what is the interest for first year? What is the interest for first year? 10% of 100, 10 rupees. 10% of 100, 10 rupees. What is the interest for second year? What is the interest for second year? Now, focus on how I calculate interest for second year, okay? Now, first we have to calculate interest on the principal. So, 10% of 100, 10 rupees. We have to calculate interest on principal. So, 10% of 100, 10 rupees, I wrote it here. Then next, in the first year, we got an interest of 10 rupees. In first year, we got an interest of 10 rupees. On this 10 rupees also, 10% is charged. That means in compound interest, we charge interest on interest, interest on interest. And that is the reason we call it as compound interest. Whereas in simple interest, we calculate interest only on the principal. Whereas in compound interest, we calculate interest on interest also. Okay, so what I do here, in first year, I got an interest of 10 rupees. On this 10 rupees also, I charge 10%. So plus 10% of 10. So totally how many rupees? 11 rupees. Then I say interest for second year is 11 rupees. Now, what is the interest for third year? So interest for third year. Interest for third year. So how do we calculate interest for third year? Once again, first we should calculate interest on principal. So 10% of 100, 10 rupees. Plus, now in first 2 years, how much interest accumulated? How much interest is accumulated in the first 2 years? First year 10 rupees, second year 11 rupees. So 2 years put together, how much interest is accumulated? 21 rupees accumulated. On this 21 rupees, we charge 10%. So I write here plus 10% of 21. So that will become rupees 12.1. So rupees 12.1 is the interest for third year. Then fourth year, interest for fourth year. Interest for fourth year. Okay, now how do we calculate interest for fourth year? Once again, first we calculate interest on the principal. So 10% of 100, it's 10 rupees. Plus. Now, what is the interest accumulated in first 3 years? First year 10 rupees, second year 11 rupees, 21 plus 12.1, 33.1. So in first 3 years, the interest accumulated is 33.1. Now 10% is calculated, 10% is charged on this 33.1. So plus I write, plus 10% of 33.1, and that is equal to rupees 13.31. So first year interest is 10 rupees, second year interest is 11 rupees, third year interest is 12.1, fourth year interest is 13.31. So I hope you understand now how the simple interest and compound interest works out. In simple interest, interest is calculated only on the principal. But in compound interest, interest is calculated not only on the principal, but also on the interest accumulated. That means interest on interest, interest on interest. So this is the major difference between simple interest and compound interest. Now, you have to highlight you have to mark three important points now that I'm going to tell you. You need to write down those three important points if possible. The first point is simple interest and compound interest both are same for the first year. You can see here, what is the simple interest for first year? 10 rupees. What is the compound interest for first year? That is also 10 rupees. So whether you charge simple interest or you charge compound interest, both are same for the first year. This is point number 1. Okay? Now point number 2. Simple interest is same every year, but compound interest, it changes from year to year. You can see. First year interest, 10 rupees. Second year interest, 10 rupees. Third year interest, 10 rupees. Fourth year interest, 10 rupees. So you can see the simple interest is same every year. But when it comes to compound interest, it's different every year. You can see, first year it is 10 rupees. Second year it is 11 rupees. Third year it is 12.1. And fourth year it is 13.31. So this is the second point. First point, simple interest and compound interest both are same for the first year. Second point, simple interest is same every year, but compound interest changes from year to year. That is the second point. Now, third point. Third point is only about compound interest. It is not related to simple interest. It is only about compound interest. Now, what is a compound interest for first year? 10 rupees. Compound interest for second year? 11 rupees. What is the difference? 1 rupee is the difference. And that difference of 1 rupee is interest on this 10 rupees. Okay? Now, what is second year interest? 11 rupees. What is third year interest? 12.1. Second year interest 11 rupees, third year interest 12.1. What is the difference? 1.1. And what is that 1.1? 1.1 is interest on this 11 rupees. You can see 10% of 11 is how much? 1.1. Now, what is the difference between third year interest and fourth year interest? Third year interest is 12.1. Fourth year interest is 13.31. What is the difference? 1.21. And that 1.21 difference between these two is interest on this 12.1. You can see 10% of 12.1 is how much? 1.21. Okay, so what I mean to say is the difference between kth year interest, the difference between kth year interest and k plus 1th year interest, the difference between kth year interest and k plus 1th year interest is interest on this. For example, the difference between 11 rupees, the second year interest and third year interest, which is 1.1, is interest on this 11 rupees. The difference between 12.1 and 13.31, which is 1.21, is interest on this. So it is what I am generalizing. The difference between kth year interest and k plus 1th year interest is interest on this. And this point is only about compound interest. It has got nothing to do with simple interest. Okay? Right. So these are the three major points about the simple interest and compound interest. So now we understood what is simple interest and what is compound interest and what are the major points that differentiate simple interest and compound interest. Okay? Now let us go to the formula stage now. What are the formulas? We start with simple interest. Now, in simple interest, there is only one formula, and that formula is interest equal to PTR by 100. This is the only formula in simple interest. Interest equal to PTR by 100. You know what P, T and R stands for. P stands for principal, T stands for time, R stands for rate of interest, I stands for interest. So this is the only formula for simple interest. Now let us do some problems, some very simple problems to understand this formula. Okay. Now interest. Suppose if I say principal is 5,000 rupees. Principal is 5,000 rupees. Time is 4 years. Time is 4 years. Rate of interest is 6% per annum. Then what is the interest? If this is the question, what is the interest? If this is the question, then interest equal to PTR by 100. Now, principal is 5,000. Time is 4 years. Rate of interest is 6%. Now, 6%, generally 6% means we write 6 by 100. 6% means we generally write 6 by 100. But in this formula, we should not write 6 by 100. We should write just 6 because that 100 is already written in the formula. 100 is already taken care here. So, we need not write by 100 again. So, principal is 5,000, time is 4, rate of interest is 6 by 100. These two zeros get cancelled. 50 into 4, 200, 200 into 6, 1200. So, rupees 1200. So, this is the interest. And if you are asked to find what is the amount, then you know what is the formula for amount. Amount is principal plus interest. So, principal is 5,000, interest is 1200. So, 5,000 plus 1200, both put together, it is 6,200. Okay, if you are asked about amount, then amount is 6,200. Now, I suggest you a method which is very easy to calculate simple interest without using the formula. You can almost do it orally without putting anything on paper. What is that method? Now, see here. Rate of interest is how much? 6% per annum. That means for each year it is 6%. Each year it is 6%. That is the meaning. And what is the total time? 4 years. So, for 1 year it is 6%. For second year also it is 6%. For third year also it is 6%. For fourth year also it is 6%. So, for 4 years put together it is how much? 24%. So, to 4 years put together interest is how much? 24%. So, what we do here, when we see rate of interest 6% and time 4 years, then we understand that for 1 year it is 6%. So, for 4 years total interest is how much? For 4 years total interest is how much? 24%. Total interest is how much? 24%. So, I write interest equal to 24% of 5,000. 1200 rupees. And if you are good at calculations, you need not even put this on paper. For 1 year 6%, for 4 years 24%. 24% of 5,000 is 1200. So you can directly mark the answer without even writing anything on paper. Suppose if I give you time 3 years, for 1 year it is 6%, then for 3 years the total interest would be 18%, and 18% of 5,000 is 900, so interest 900. If it is 8 years, then for each year it is 6%, for 8 years it is 48%, so 48% of 5,000, 2,400. Like that you can calculate orally. Okay, right. Now, so this is the formula about simple interest, only one formula. So, out of these 4 variables, how many variables are there in the formula? I, P, T, R, 4 variables. Out of 4 variables, if you are asked any one variable, then the remaining 3 variables will be given in the problem. If you are asked to find out any one variable, the remaining 3 variables will be given in the problem, and substitute those variables, you get the answer. Okay, right. Now, let us solve some problems, some examination questions. Whatever questions now we are going to solve, are all those questions have appeared in SSC CGL. Okay, now first we will solve the problems under simple interest, then we will discuss the formulas in compound interest and solve the problems under compound interest also. So, first let us start with simple interest, right? This is our first question in simple interest, given in SSC CGL 2011. Now, rupees 800 becomes rupees 956 in 3 years. at a certain rate of interest. So what is the rate of interest? It is not given. But in 3 years, 800 will become 956 rupees. Okay. Now, if the rate of interest is increased by 4%, if the rate of interest is increased by 4%, what amount will rupees 800 become in 3 years? So, suppose if the rate of interest is increased by 4%, 800 will become how much? Instead of 956, 800 will become how much? That is the question. Okay. Now, I do this problem in not in traditional style, in an advanced version. Now, if the rate of interest is increased, then the amount will also increase. So I do it like this. The new amount equal to 956 plus additional amount. Okay. See, you will get this 956. Apart from getting this 956, you will get some additional money because the rate of interest is increased by 4%. Okay. So what is the new amount? You will get that original amount 956 plus you will also get some extra money because the rate of interest is increased by 4%. So what is this additional amount? How to calculate this? I tell you. 956 plus 12% of 800. Now, how is it 12%? Very simple. Rate of interest is increased by 4%. So, for 1 year, you will get additional interest of 4%. So, for 3 years put together, you will get an additional interest of 12%. Isn't it? For 1 year, you get an additional interest of 4%. So, for 3 years, you get an additional interest of 12%. So, I calculated 12%. And why 12% should be calculated on 800? Because in simple interest, interest is always calculated on the principal. And what is the principal? It's clearly given 800. So this is the additional money you get. 956 you will get anyhow. And since the rate of interest is increased, you will get this additional money. And 12% of 800 is 96. So 956 plus 96. You get the answer and it is 1052. So the answer is rupees 1052. Okay? Rupees 1052. Now let us go for the next question. This is our next question. If the simple interest on a certain sum of money at 5% per annum for 4 years and 3 years differ by rupees 42, the sum is, okay, now here, what is the principal? It is not given. Now, but the difference between 4 years interest and 3 years interest, the difference between 4 years interest and 3 years interest is how much? 42 rupees. Then how much is this sum? Sum means principal. I told you sum or principal, both are one and the same. Okay? Now, what is the rate of interest? 5%. So for 4 years, what is the total interest you get? 20%. Because each year you will get 5%. So 4 years put together, what is the total interest in percentage? 20%. Now for 3 years, what is the total interest you get? 15%. 15%. For 4 years, you get a total interest of 20%. For 3 years, you get a total interest of 15%. So what is the difference between 4 years interest and 3 years interest? 5%. 5%. 5%. But in the problem, the difference is given as 42 rupees. Now, this 5% is the difference between 4 years interest and 3 years interest. And this 42 rupees is also the difference between 4 years interest and 3 years interest. And therefore 5% of principal equal to 42 rupees. Now, 5% is 42, 100% is how much? When 5% is 42, 100% is how much? Why 100%? Because principal always represents 100%. So you can see the left hand side is becoming 20 times. When the left hand side becomes 20 times, right hand side will also become 20 times, and 20 times of 42 is 840. Then I can say 840 rupees is the principal. And if you don't like this method, or if you don't want to do the problem by these two steps, then you can solve this equation. 5% of principal equal to 42 rupees, then principal equal to 42 into 100 divided by 5, you will get 840. Okay, so here the principal is 840. Now let us do the next question. The difference between simple interest received from two different banks on rupees 500 in 2 years is rupees 2.5. Then the difference between their per annum rate of interest is, okay, now first let me explain you the question. There are two banks, Bank A and Bank B. In Bank A, 500 rupees is there. In Bank B is also 500 rupees. And the difference between the interest received from these two banks in 2 years is 2.5 rupees. That means one bank is giving 2.5 rupees more interest when compared to other bank. In how many years? In 2 years. Then what is the difference in the rate of interest? What is the difference in the rate of interest? That is the question. Okay. Now, once again, I don't try to do this problem by the traditional method, because it will be a lengthy one and time consuming one. So I tell you a very easy way of doing this. Now in 2 years, what is the difference in the interest received? 2.5. So in 1 year, what will be the difference in the interest received? 1.25. So I write difference in 1 year. Difference in 1 year. Difference in 1 year, how much? Rupees 2.5 divided by 2, or rupees 1.25. So in 1 year, one bank will give 1 rupee 25 paise more interest when compared to the other bank. Then what is the difference in the rate of interest? That is the question. Now what all we have to do now is, we need to find out this 1.25 is what percentage of 500. This 1.2, we are getting 1.25 more from one bank. So if you convert this 1.25 in percentage, you will get to know what is the difference in the rate of interest. Okay, अगर आप ये 1.25 को परसेंटेज में कन्वर्ट करते हैं तो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट में क्या डिफरेंस है वो परसेंटेज में आपको मिल जाएगा. Okay, so we find out now 1.25 as a percentage of 500. So 1.25 as a percentage of 500. So this we have to convert into percentage. So into 100. Okay. So these two zeros will get cancelled. 5 1 times, 5 25 times. So 0.25. So it is 0.25%. So the difference in the rate of interest between these two banks, the difference in the rate of interest between these two banks is how much? 0.25%. That means one bank is giving 0.25% interest more when compared to another bank per annum. Okay, that's the answer, right? And this is the solution. Okay, right. Now let us go for the next question. The next question. Simple interest on a certain sum for 6 years. Simple interest on a certain sum for 6 years is 9/25 of this sum. The rate of interest is. Now here, what is this sum? It is not given. How much is the interest? It's given but not directly. Then what is the rate of interest? Now this question, first I will solve by the traditional method just to make your understanding better. And then later on, I will also give you a shortcut method to do this problem where you can solve the problem within seconds, right? Now, simple interest is how much? Simple interest for 6 years is how much? 9 by 25th of this sum. Okay. Interest equal to, we know interest formula is how much? PTR by 100. Interest is PTR by, I told you there is only one formula in simple interest, and that is PTR by 100. So interest equal to PTR by 100. But interest is already given as 9 by 25th of the sum. So in place of I write 9 by 25th of P. Sum is not principal. So interest is clearly given as 9 by 25th of the sum. So in place of interest, I write 9 by 25 into P equal to P into time. Time is how much? 6 years already given. Time is 6 years already given. And rate of interest, that is what we have to calculate. So rate of interest as it is by 100. By 100. Now P on left side, P on right side will get cancelled. So 900 by 150. 9 into 100, 900 by 150. So R equal to 6. Therefore, R equal to 6%. Then I can say rate of interest is 6%. So this is a traditional way of doing it. Now, we do it by the advanced method. Interest is how much? 9 by 25th of the sum. So first I convert 9 by 25 into percentage. Interest is clearly given as 9 by 25th of the sum. So I will convert this 9 by 25 into percentage. And how do we convert a fraction into percentage? We have to multiply the fraction with 100. So into 100, 36%. And if you are good at calculations, just by observing the figure 9 by 25, immediately and instantly you will say it is 36%. And you should be in that position. If you want to crack the exam, your just knowledge alone will not help you to crack the exam. Along with the knowledge, you should also have the speed. Okay, so when you see 9 by 25, you should reach a stage where you can easily understand that 9 by 25 is 36% within 1 or 2 seconds. So 9 by 25 is 36%. Now, I tell you the logic, how to do it orally. Now, in 6 years, if I get 6 years, how do we get this 6 years? Because time is 6 years is already given. So in 6 years, if I get 36%, in 1 year I get how much? Because rate of interest is always given per annum. Okay, so 6 years 36%. So 1 year how much? So anybody can say it is 6%. 36 divided by 6, 6%. So this is the advanced method. First, convert 9 by 25 into percentage. You get 36%. So for 6 years, if I get 36%, for 1 year I get how much? 6%. That is the easier way of doing it. And if you are not comfortable with this, you can try this method. And as the time progresses, as your practice increases, then you can go for this method as well. Right. Now, let us go to the next question. Simple interest on a certain sum is 16 by 25th of the sum. Now, I have given a similar problem to make your understanding better. A similar question. Simple interest is how much? 16 by 25th of the sum. And what is the rate percent? Rate percent and time both are equal. Is saying that rate percent and time both are equal. Then what is the rate percent? What is the rate of interest? And it is given that rate percent and time both are equal numerically. Okay, then what is the rate of interest? Right. Now, here, first we do it by traditional style. Interest equal to PTR by 100. Interest equal to PTR by 100. PTR by 100. But interest is given as 16 by 25th of the sum. So 16 by 25 into P equal to P. Now, time and rate of interest both are equal numerically given. That means if rate T in place of T, I substitute R. Okay, I just explain you by taking an example. If rate of interest is 5%, then time is also 5 years. That is the meaning he has given. Okay, the rate percent, if the rate percent and time are equal, that means if rate of interest is 5%, time will be 5 years. If rate of interest is 3%, then time will be 3 years. This is the meaning of the logic given. So what I do, in place of t, I substitute r by 100. Now p and p will get cancelled. Then r square equal to 1600 divided by 25. You get 64. Then you get r equal to 8%. R equal to 8%. Okay, so this is the traditional style. Now let us go for the advanced version. Rate of interest is 8%. Now let us go for the advanced method. 16 by 25. If you convert it into percentage, you get 64%. You get 64%. Okay, now 64%, and it is clearly given that the rate percent and time both are equal. The rate percent and time both are equal. That means you have to take r square equal to, or else don't take r square. You need to write 64 as a product of two numbers where both the numbers are same. 64 as a product of two numbers where both the numbers are same. And the only way you can write is 8 into 8. That means time is 8 years, rate of interest is 8%. Okay, so 64 you should write it as its square roots. Square root into square root, 8 into 8. Then I can say rate of interest is 8%. This is the advanced method. First convert 16 by 25 into percentage, 64%, and write 64 is a perfect square, and then find out its square root and write it as 8 into 8. So 8, number of years 8. If you are asked to find out what is the number of years, you can say 8. And if you are asked to say what is the rate of interest, that is also 8. Okay? Now let us go for the next question. This is almost on the same lines. The simple interest on a sum after 4 years is 1/5 of the sum. What is the rate of interest? So for 4 years, simple interest is how much? 1/5 of the sum. Now I don't do it by traditional style. Now when interest is 1/5, if you convert 1/5 in percentage, it is 20%. So for 4 years, you are getting 20%. So for 4 years, if you get 20%, for 1 year you get 5%. So the answer is 5%. Very simple. Okay, 1/5 when converted into percentage is 20%. So for 4 years put together, you get 20%. So for 1 year, you get how much? 5%. So the answer is 5%. Okay, right. Next question. In how many years will a sum of money double itself at 12% per annum? In how many years a sum of money will double itself? And what is the rate of interest? 12% per annum. Okay. Now here, before we solve this problem, I explain you a simple concept. Then we will solve the problem. Let principal equal to 100 rupees. And when this sum gets doubled, then 100 becomes 200 rupees. 100 becomes 200 rupees. Because it's clearly given, the sum gets doubled. So if you assume the principal as 100 rupees, then 100 becomes 200 rupees. Then out of this 200, we know that 100 rupees is principal. We know that 100 rupees is principal. And what is the remaining 100 rupees? The remaining 100 rupees is interest. Now you can see interest and principal both are equal. Then I say when the sum gets doubled, interest is 100%. Because you can see interest and principal both are same. So when a sum gets doubled, interest is 100%. Suppose if the money gets tripled, then what happens? 100 becomes 300. 100 becomes 300. Out of 300, 100 is the principal and the remaining 200 is interest. Now you can see interest is double of principal. Then I can say interest is 200% and here interest is 100%. Because here interest is equal to principal. So I can say interest is 100%. Total interest means total interest. Now here interest is double of principal. Then I say interest is 200%. Suppose if the money becomes 4 times. If the money becomes 4 times, then 100 becomes 400. out of 400, principal is 100 and interest is 300 rupees. Then I can say interest is 300%. Interest is 300%. Okay, now I generalize this. When a money becomes n times of itself, n times, I write here, n times. When a money becomes n times of itself, then interest is how much? N minus 1 into 100%. This is the generalization. Whenever a money becomes n times of itself, total interest will be how much? Total interest in percentage will be how much? N minus 1 into 100%. Now when a money becomes double, then n will be 2. So 2 minus 1, 1. 1 into 100%, 100%. So 100%. Now here money got tripled. That means n equal to 3. So when n is 3, so 3 minus 1, 2. 2 into 100%, 200%. You can see 200%. And when a money becomes 4 times of itself, n is 4. 4 minus 1, 3. 3 into 100, 300%. And you can see 300% here. Okay? So whenever a money becomes n times of itself, then the interest will be n minus 1 into 100%. Okay? Now let us go to this question. In how many years will a sum of money double itself at 12% per annum? So in how many years the money will become? So here he is asking us the number of years. In how many years the money will become double? Now we know that when money becomes double, interest is 100%. Okay? And that is 100% we are getting in how many years? That we have to calculate. So here I write number of years. I just remove this, 1 minute. Of years equal to total interest by rate percent. Now total interest is 100%. And rate of interest is 12. 100 by 12 how much? 8 1 by 3 years. And 8 1 by 3 years means 8 years 4 months. So here I can choose the answer 8 years 4 months. You understand? Number of years. What I do here? Total interest divided by how much interest I get in 1 year. Total interest divided by how much interest I get in 1 year in terms of percentage. Total interest in percentage is how much? 100. And rate of interest is how much? 12. So 100 by 12 how much? 8 1 by 3 years. So 8 1 by 3 years means if you convert that 1 by 3 year into months, then it will be 8 years 4 months. Okay? Right. Now we will take some break and we will meet again. Right. Thank you. Okay, students. Now, let us go for the next problem. We will see few more problems like this. A sum of money doubles itself in 4 years. In how many years will it become 5 times of itself? So, to become double, it takes 4 years. Then in how many years it will become 5 times of itself? Then most of the people will do like this. Double in 4 years. So 5 times means 4 into 5, 20 years. This is the answer most of the people would like to take. But this is very much wrong. This is very much wrong. Okay? Now I tell you how to do it. When money becomes double, interest is how much? 100%. I told you when a sum becomes n times of itself, interest is n minus 1 into 100%. So a sum doubles itself in 4 years. That means we get 100% interest. We get 100% interest in how many years? 4 years. Now, in how many years will the sum become 5 times of itself? Now, when the sum becomes 5 times, interest will be how much? 400%. So, 400% interest. 400% interest, how many years? That is the question. When we get 100% interest in 4 years, 400% interest we get in how many years? Now, the left hand side is becoming 4 times. So, the right hand side will also become 4 times. So, the answer would be 16 years. Very simple. 16 years. And suppose in this question, if you are asked to find what is the rate of interest, if that is the question, what is the rate of interest? If that is the question, then for 4 years, you get 100%. Then rate of interest is always expressed per annum. So for 1 year, how much? So you can say it is 25%. In case if you are asked to find rate of interest also, then we can do like this. In 4 years, we are getting 100% interest. So in 1 year, we get how much? So 25%. Then I can say rate of interest is 25%. A very, very simple way of solving this type of questions. Next one, a similar question. A sum of money triples itself in 10 years. In how many years will it double itself? That is the first part of the question. And second part of the question, in how many years will it become 5 times of itself? Okay. Now, first let us answer the first part of the question, and in how many years will it become double of itself? Now, a sum of money triples itself in 10 years. Now, when a sum triples itself, interest is 200%. So, 200% interest I get in 10 years. 200% interest I get in 10 years. Then in how many years will it become double of itself? That is the question. Now when sum becomes double of itself, interest is 100%. So 100% interest I get in how many years? This is the problem. 200% interest I take 10 years. So 100% interest I take how many years? So anyone can make out that it is 5 years. The left hand side is becoming half. So the right hand side should also become half. So it would be 5 years. So this is the answer for the first part of the question. Now second part of the question. In how many years will it become 5 times of itself? Now 200% interest. 200% interest I get in 10 years. Then 400% interest. 400% interest I get in how many years? How 400%? Because when the sum becomes 5 times of itself, interest will be 400%. So 200% interest I take 10 years time. 400% interest I take how many years? Now you can see the left hand side is getting doubled. So the right hand side will also get doubled. And double of 10 is 20 years. So I can say 20 years. And in case here also if you are asked to find rate of interest, you know what to do. Okay, 10 years, I get 200%. So 1 year, I get how much? In 10 years, if I get 200%, 1 year, I get what percent? Then you can say the rate of interest is 20% per annum. Okay, right. Now, the next question. Asked about the rate of interest. A certain sum of money triples itself in 5 years at simple interest. Here at is missing. In 5 years at simple interest. Find the rate percent per annum. What is the rate of interest? Okay, so here he is directly asking rate of interest, and the money is tripling itself in 5 years. That means 200% interest. I am getting 200% interest in 5 years. So 1 year I get how much? This is the question. In 5 years I get 200%. So in 1 year I get how much? So I can say rate of interest is 40%. 40% per annum. Okay, to get 200%, I take 5 years time. So in 5 years, if I get 200%, in 1 year I get how much? So you can easily say it is 40%. Okay, right. Now, the next question. A certain sum amounts to rupees 2,300 in 3 years and rupees 2,500 in 5 years at simple interest. Find the sum and the rate of interest. Okay, right. Now, what is the principal? It is not given. But after 3 years, the sum will become how much? 2,300. And if 5 years time is given, the sum will become 2,500. So if 3 years time is given, it becomes 2,300. If 5 years time is given, it becomes 2,500. Then what is the principal and what is the rate of interest? That's the question. Okay. Now, in 3 years, it is becoming 2,300. In 5 years, it is becoming 2,500. Why there is a difference of 200 rupees? Why are we getting a difference of 200 rupees in the two amounts? Because there is a difference of 2 years. First amount is given for 3 years and second amount is given for 5 years. So there is a difference of 2 years and therefore there is a difference of 200 rupees. So from that point, we need to understand that interest for 2 years is 200. We are getting a difference of 200 rupees because there is a difference of 2 years. That only means interest for 2 years is 200 rupees. So I write here, clearly, interest for 2 years, is rupees 200. That means 1 year interest is 100 rupees, anyone can make out. Okay, if interest for 2 years is 200, interest for 1 year will be 100 rupees. Now, what is the question? Find the sum and rate of interest. So I take amount 1. A1 means amount 1. And what is the formula for amount? Principal plus interest. Now amount 1 is 2,300. Principal we have to calculate. And interest we should take for how many years? 3 years, because amount 1 is given for how many years? 3 years. So interest should also be taken for 3 years. So interest for 2 years is 200, then interest for 3 years would be 300. Or else, you know that interest for each year is 100 rupees. Interest each year is 100 rupees. So for 3 years, how much will be the interest? 300 rupees. And therefore, principal is rupees 2,000. And we know principal and sum both are one and the same. So I can say the sum is 2,000 rupees. But he's also asking us rate of interest. He's also asking us rate of interest. So rate of interest. Rate of interest, what is the formula I gave you? Interest equal to PTR by 100. So interest, yearly interest is how much? 100 rupees. Yearly interest 100 rupees. Principal is 2,000 time 1 year into R by 100. Now, why did I take time 1 year? Why should I take time 1 year? Because I took interest only for 1 year. If you take 300 rupees on the left side, then in place of time, you have to take 3 years. If you take interest 200 rupees on the left side, then time you have to take 2 years. But I took only 100 rupees as interest, and therefore time is 1 year. And do this calculation, you get rate of interest is 5%. Easiest way to find the rate of interest is on 2,000 rupees, 100 rupees is the interest. On 2,000 rupees, 100 rupees is interest for 1 year. So 100 by 2,000. 100 by 2,000 is 1 by 20. And if you convert 1 by 20 into percentage, it is nothing but 5%. So rate of interest is 5%. That's it. Okay. Now, come let us go. So principal is 2,000 rupees and rate of interest is 5%. So 2,000, 5%. Third choice is the answer. Now let us go for the next question. The next question. Divide rupees 6,000 into two parts so that simple interest on first part for 2 years at 6% per annum may be equal to, here 2 is missing, may be equal to simple interest on the second part for 3 years at 8% per annum. Now 6,000 rupees should be divided into two parts. Two parts means don't understand two equal parts. In what ratio we have to divide, that we have to decide. Okay, so 6,000 rupees should be divided into two parts. And there is a condition given that. What is that condition? Interest on first part for 2 years. Interest on first part for 2 years should be equal to interest on second part for 3 years. Then what are those two parts? That is the question. Okay. Now let the two parts be x and y. Let 6,000 rupees be divided into two parts. One part is x, another part is y. So I write here, let the two parts be x and y. Okay. Now what is the interest on first part? Each year 6%. Each year 6%. So for 2 years it is how much? 12%. So interest on first part for 2 years. Interest on first part for 2 years is how much? 12% of x. Then what is the interest on second part for 3 years? Now each year you will get 8%. Each year you will get 8%. So for 3 years it should be 24%. So 24% of y. Okay, so this is the interest on first part for 2 years. And this is the interest on second part for 3 years. And interest on first part for 2 years is equal to interest on second part for 3 years given in the problem. That means both are equal. Then x by y equal to 24 by 12 or 2 by 1. That means 6,000 rupees should be divided in the ratio 2:1. That is the meaning. So if you divide 6,000 in the ratio 2:1, what will be the two parts? 4,000 and 2,000. So we take the answer choice as A. Okay? Right. The next problem is compound interest problem. So we have finished with simple interest questions. Now we will discuss compound interest. And before we get into the problem, I would also like to give you the formulas on compound interest, and then we go for the problems. And I also would like to explain few concepts on compound interest as well. Let principal equal to 100 rupees. Rate of interest is 10% per annum at compound interest. At compound interest. Okay. Then principal the beginning. Then at the beginning of next the end of. Then first year, second year, third year. Right. Now, I assume the principal as 100 rupees. Rate of interest 10% per annum at compound interest. Then, what is the principal at the beginning of, BEG means beginning, at the beginning of first year, second year, third year? Then what is the amount at the end of first year, second year, third year? You need to understand like that. Now let us start from here. What is the principal at the beginning of first year? Principal at the beginning of first year. Now clearly given principal 100 rupees. So principal at the beginning of first year 100 rupees. Then what is amount at the end of first year? We all know that amount is principal plus interest. So principal is 100 rupees plus interest. Interest is how much? 10% of 100, 10 rupees. So that will give you 110 rupees. So principal at the beginning of first year 100 rupees and amount at the end of first year 110 rupees. Okay? Now, I tell you one very, very important point. The end of first year will become principal at the beginning of second year. वहाँ पे जो अमाउंट है फर्स्ट ईयर एंडिंग में जो अमाउंट है वो सेकेंड ईयर बिगिनिंग में प्रिंसिपल हो जाएगा एंड दिस विल हैपन ओनली इन कॉम्पाउंड इंटरेस्ट नॉट विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू सिंपल इंटरेस्ट ओके नाउ सो अमाउंट एट द एंड ऑफ फर्स्ट ईयर will become principal at the beginning of second year. So what is principal at the beginning of second year? 110 rupees. Okay, this is, I already explained you what is compound interest initially itself. This is another way of understanding compound interest. Now, what is principal at the beginning of second year? 110 rupees. Then what is amount at the end of second year? Amount का मतलब है principal plus interest. Now, principal is 110 rupees. You can see principal, I wrote 110 rupees at the beginning of second year. So principal is 110 rupees and interest is 10%. Now tell me what is 10% of 110? 10% of 110 is 11. So plus 11, 121 rupees. So amount at the end of second year is 121 rupees. Okay. Now, what is principal at the beginning of third year? Amount at the end of second year. Amount at the end of second year will become principal at the beginning of third year. So 121 rupees. So principal at the beginning of third year, 121 rupees. Then what is amount at the end of third year? Amount is once again principal plus interest. Principal is 121, interest. Interest is 10%. So 10% of 121, how much? 12.1. 12.1, then 133.1 rupees 133.1. So I can say amount at the end of third year is 133.1. Okay, so the point to catch in this whole table is I just generalize this. The difference between amount at the end of kth year. Amount at the end of kth year will become principal at the beginning of k plus 1th year. Okay? Amount at the end of kth year will become principal at the beginning of k plus 1th year. You can see amount at the end of first year will become principal at the beginning of second year. Amount at the end of second year will become principal at the beginning of third year. That is the point. Now, one more important point I want to tell you here. Another important point I want to tell you. Now here, what is the amount for first year? 110 rupees. What is the amount for second year? 121 rupees. What is the difference? The difference is 11 rupees. And that 11 rupees is interest on this 110. The difference between first year amount and second year amount is 11 rupees. And that 11 rupees is interest on first year amount. Now, what is the difference between second year amount and third year amount? The difference between second year amount and third year amount, 12.1. And that 12.1 is interest on this 121. That means the difference between kth year amount and k plus 1th year amount. The difference between kth year amount and k plus 1th year amount is interest on kth year amount. So you can see the difference between these two, which is 12.1, is interest on 121. Similarly, the difference between 110 and 121, which is 11 rupees, is interest on this 110. So these are the two major points. First point is amount at the end of kth year will become principal at the beginning of k plus 1th year. That is the first point. And second point is the difference between amount for kth year and k plus 1th year is interest on kth year amount. Okay, so these are the two major points about compound interest. Now I'll give you the formula also. Formula. What is the formula to find out the compound interest? Now here in simple interest we have a direct formula to find out interest, and that is PTR by 100. But in compound interest we don't have a direct formula to find out the interest. Okay, if you want we can manufacture that formula, but that formula is very time consuming one to use. So what we do is we first find out amount. We find out amount. From that amount, if we subtract principal, then you will get interest. What do? We calculate amount. From that amount, if I subtract the principal, then you will get what is the compound interest. So I'll give you what is the formula to find out amount. Now, amount formula is P into 1 plus R by K by 100 whole to the power of Nk. This is the formula to find out amount. Now, what is P? P is principal. What is R? Rate of interest per annum. And what is, I write here, R equal to rate of interest. Rate of interest per annum. Rate of interest per annum. Okay. Then what is N? N is number of years. N is number of years. And what is K? That is the important point. K is number of times. Number of times interest is compounded. Number of times interest is compounded in a year. So K is number of times interest is compounded in a year. So this is the formula. Suppose if I say rate of interest is compounded yearly. I just take an example. Rate of interest is 24% per annum. Rate of interest is 24% per annum. Okay. Now, suppose if interest is compounded yearly, then K value will become 1. Because what is K? Number of times interest is compounded in a year. So, if interest is compounded yearly, then K value will become 1. So, in place of R, we write 24. In place of K, we substitute 1. That's it. 24 by 1. Now, suppose if the interest is compounded half yearly, then you cannot calculate with 24%. Because 24% is if you wait for 1 year. If you calculate every year, then it is 24%. But you are calculating very early. You are calculating for 6 months only. So for 1 year, if it is 24%, for 6 months, it should get half. That means you should calculate with the rate of 12%. Because the time period you have chosen is only 6 months. Then to make this 24% 12, we use R by K. R is 24 and K is how much? 2. Because interest K, what is K? Number of times interest is compounded in a year. So if interest is compounded half yearly, in 1 year you will find out, you will calculate compound interest how many times? 2 times. If interest is calculated half yearly, if interest is compounded half yearly, in 1 year you will calculate how many times? 2 times. So K value will become 2. So when interest is compounded half yearly, K value will become 2. So 24 by 2 will become 12. If interest is compounded quarterly, then K value will become 4. Then we write 24 by 4. And in power also we write 4. So this is the formula to find out compound interest. Okay. Suppose if the rate of interest is different every year. First year 10%, second year 15%, third year 20%. If the rate of interest is changing every year, then how do you write the formula? So then what we do? Amount equal to P into 1 plus R1 by 100 into 1 plus R2 by 100 into 1 plus R3 by 100 into so on and so forth. We write the formula like this. First year 10%, so substitute 10% in place of R1. Second year 15%, so substitute 15 here. Third year 20%, substitute 20 here. Like that you can continue depending upon the number of years and number of rates of interest. So this is the formula about compound interest. Okay. But as long as the time is 2 years, as long as this power is 2, it is easy to manage in competitive exams. But the power is more than 2, it becomes difficult to calculate within the given time limit. Within the given time limit, it becomes very difficult to calculate under compound interest. So I suggest you a different method where you can directly calculate compound interest. You need not even calculate amount. You can directly calculate compound interest, that too very, very easily. So what is that method that we need to focus upon? Okay, so please concentrate on how to calculate compound interest directly. I'm going to tell you, I will take 2-3 examples, not just one example, I will take 2-3 examples. Principal is 5,000 rupees. Rate of interest is 10% per annum, compounded yearly. Compounded yearly, and time is 3 years. What is the interest if this is the question? What is the interest if this is the question? We will calculate interest for each year. We will calculate interest for each year. So I do it. Compound interest for 3 years. So first I calculate for first year. So what is the interest for first year? 10% of 5,000. 10% of 5,000, 500 rupees. So interest for first year is finished, 500 rupees. Then second year. What is the interest for second year? How do we calculate interest for second year? Now, first calculate interest on principal. पहले principal के ऊपर interest calculate करना चाहिए. तो 10% of 5,000, again 500. 10% of 5,000, again 500. Plus, now, how much interest we got in first year? 500 rupees. On this 500 rupees also 10% is charged. We got an interest of 500 rupees in the first year. On this 10% is charged. And 10% of 500 is how much? 50 rupees. So interest for second year is 500 plus 50, 550. So if I ask you what is the compound interest for 2 years, the problem is over. First year 500, second year 550. Put together compound interest for 2 years is 1050. Very simple, 1050. Now, suppose a number, the time given here is 3 years. So we need to calculate for one more year. So third year. Okay, I do it. Okay, right. Third year. Now what is the interest for third year? First we should calculate interest on principal. So 10% of 5,000, again 500. 500 plus. Now tell me how much interest we got in the first 2 years. पहले 2 साल में कितना इंटरेस्ट मिला है पूरा अपने को? 500 here, 550 here, 1050. So we received an interest of 1050. The interest accumulated, I mean to say, the interest accumulated in first 2 years is 1050. On that 1050 also 10% is charged. And 10% of 1050 is how much? 105. So यहाँ पे 105. So if I ask you what is the interest for third year, then it is 605. But we have to calculate interest for 3 years. So 500, 500, 500, 1500, 1500, 1655. So rupees 1655. 1655. So this is the compound interest for 3 years. Okay, now same problem, 10% compounded yearly. I'll just make one change here. Or let us take one more question. I hope you understand this, right? Now let us go for the next example. Next example, principal 20,000 rupees. Rate of interest 20% per annum, compounded half yearly. Compounded half yearly. Time 1.5 year. What is the interest? What is the interest? That is the question. Now, so here applicable rate, I write here, applicable rate is 10%. Okay. Now compound interest for 1.5 year. Now, why do I write applicable rate to a 10%? Very simple. Rate of interest is 20% per annum. For 1 year, it is 20%. But we are calculating interest every 6 months. That means we are calculating early. So for 1 year, if rate of interest is 20%, for 6 months, it should be 10%. That means we have to calculate interest at 10%. So therefore, I wrote applicable rate 10%. Now, what is the interest for first 6 months? What is the interest for first 6 months? Don't take 20%, 10%. Applicable rate is 10% because we are calculating every 6 months. 10% of 20,000, 2,000. 2,000 rupees. So this is the interest for first 6 months. Then plus second 6 months. What is the interest for second 6 months? So once again, first we should calculate interest on principal. So 10% of 20,000, 2,000. 2,000 plus what is the interest accumulated in first 6 months? Same procedure as compounded annually. Okay, same procedure. There is nothing, no change in the procedure at all. The only thing is applicable rate changes. Now, so 2,000 plus. How much interest is accumulated in first 6 months? 2,000. On this 2,000 also 10% is charged. And 10% of 2,000 is 200. Then third 6 months. Third 6 months. Now, once again, we calculate interest on principal. So 10% of 20,000, 2,000. Plus. Now, how much interest is accumulated in this first two periods? In the first 2 periods, how much interest is accumulated? Here 2,000, here 2,200, 4,200. On that 4,200 also 10% is charged. And 10% of 4,200 is 420. So 420. So totally how much? 6,620 rupees, 6,620. So this is the compound interest for 1.5 year. If it is compounded quarterly also, we do the same thing. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. So this is the easy way of calculating compound. If the power is 2, we can use the formula. There is nothing wrong in it. We can use the formula, we can get the answer fast. But if the power crosses 2, then it becomes difficult to calculate compound interest. So this becomes an easier way of doing it. And this will also help us in solving the other problems in compound interest easily. Now, let us do some questions under compound interest, right? Now, the compound interest on a certain sum of money for 2 years at 5% is rupees 328. What is this sum? That is the question. Now, principal is, we have to calculate the principal. But the rate of interest is not the compound interest on a certain sum. So we don't know the principal, we have to calculate the principal. Time is 2 years. Rate of interest is 5%. And compound interest is 328. Then what is this sum? What is the principal? That is the question. Now, I followed the previous method that I explained. I follow that method. I assume the principal as 100 rupees. Let principal equal to 100 rupees. Then what is the compound interest for 2 years? Compound interest for 2 years. How much is it? First year how much? 5%, rate of interest is 5%. 5% of 100, 5 rupees. First year interest is 5 rupees. Second year how much? Again 5 rupees. Plus. First year we got 5 rupees interest. On this also 5% is charged. And 5% of 5 rupees is 0.25. So what is the total interest for 2 years? Rupees 10.25. Rupees 10.25. So compound interest for, if I assume the principal is 100 rupees, then compound interest for 2 years is how much? 10.25. 2 years. Now, I relate this data with the data given in the problem. Okay. Now, if compound interest is if compound interest is 10.25, then principal is 100 rupees. Then principal is 100 rupees. If compound interest is 10.25, then principal is 100 rupees. So if compound interest is 328, is it 328? Yes, 328. If compound interest is 328, then principal is how much? That's it. You get the answer. So I think it is 3,232 times. Yes, 32 times. So 328 divided by 10.25. 10.25. So if you take 2 zeros, 30 times, yeah. You should get 3,200. You can do the calculation and get, it will become 32 times. So when the left hand side becomes 32 times, right hand side will also become 32 times. And 32 times of 100 is how much? 32 times of 100 is 3,200. So principal must be, sum must be 3,200 rupees. Okay? Right. Now, the next question. Here onwards, all the questions that we do belong to compound interest. Okay? Simple interest is over. Now, a certain sum invested with interest of 8% per annum compounded semi-annually amounts to rupees 6,760 at the end of 1 year. Then the sum is. So, what is the principal? We don't know. But after 1 year, the amount is 6,760. Principal is not given. But after 1 year, it becomes how much? 6,760. Then what is the principal? Same as the previous question. In the previous question, compound interest is given for 2 years, and in this problem, compound interest is given for 1 year, and the interest is compounded half yearly. That is the only difference. But the procedure will be same. So I write, let principal equal to 100 rupees. Let principal equal to 100 rupees. Then what is the compound interest for 1 year? What is the applicable rate? Rate of interest is given as 8% per annum. So for 1 year, if it is 8%, for 6 months, it should be 4%. So the applicable rate is 4%. So what is the interest for first 6 months? First 6 months, it should be 4 rupees. And for the next 6 months also 4 rupees plus. Next 6 months also 4 rupees plus. Now, in the first 6 months, what is the interest accumulated? 4 rupees. On this 4 rupees also 4% is charged. And 4% of 4 rupees is 0.16. So 0.16. So what is the compound interest for 1 year? Rupees 8.16. So compound interest for 1 year is 8.16. Then amount is how much? Amount is rupees 108.16. Amount is rupees 108.16. Okay. Now, why amount is rupees 108.16? Because we know amount is principal plus interest. Okay, and principal is 100, interest is 8.16. So amount will be how much? 108.16. Now we relate this data to the data given in the question. Now, if amount is 108.16, then principal is 100. Then principal is 100 rupees. You can see here, when amount is 108.16, what is the principal? 100 rupees. But in the problem, amount is already given. How much? 6,760. So if amount is 6,760, then how much is principal? Now you do these calculations, you get the answer. So 6,760 divided by 108.16. How many times? You check. You do the calculations and check how many times. Then if the left hand side becomes x times, then the right hand side will also become x times, and you get the answer. Okay. Now, for the paucity of time and to cover as many problems as possible, I just skip this calculation. I think you can easily do this calculation on your own. So the left hand side is becoming how many times, you find out. The right hand side will also become that many times, and you can easily make out the answer. Most probably it should be 6,250 if my guess is correct. Okay, right. Next question. Rekha invested a sum of rupees 12,000 at 5% per annum compound interest. 5% per annum compound interest given, but it is compounded yearly, half yearly, quarterly, nothing is specified. And when nothing is specified, you can take it for granted that it is compounded yearly. Okay? So now, so she is investing 12,000 rupees at 5% per annum compound interest. After 2 years, she is getting back how much? 13,250. After n years, sorry. After n number of years. How many years? It is not given. So after n number of years, she is getting 13,230 rupees. Then what is n? That means what is the number of years that we have to calculate. Okay. Now here, I use the formula. I use the formula here. Now, amount equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole to the power of n. Now, you may want to ask me what happened to k. You have given k also in the formula, but k I don't write here because k is 1. Because interest is compounded yearly, and when interest is compounded yearly, k value will become 1. So I am directly writing 1 plus R by 100 whole to the power of n. Okay. Now, amount is how much? 13,230. Principal how much? 12,000. Principal is 12,000. 1 plus rate of interest is 5 by 100 whole to the power of n. What is the number of years? We don't know. So I write n as it is. Now, this 12,000 will come down. So 13,230 by 12,000 equal to 105 by 100. The whole thing in bracket will be 105 by 100. 105 by 100 I can write 21 by 20 whole to the power of n. Okay. Now this 0 and this 0 will get cancelled. 1323 by 1200. 1323 by 1200, if you simplify, you will get 441 by 400 equal to 21 by 20 whole to the power of n. Now 441 by 400 can be written as 21 by 20 whole square equal to 21 by 20 whole power n. Now, you can easily say the left hand side is equal to right hand side. So, you can easily say n equal to 2 years. N equal to 2 years. Okay? Right? Let's go for the next question. In what time is 8,000 will amount to 9,261 at 10% per annum compound interest when the interest is compounded half yearly? Same as the previous question. The only difference is here interest is compounded half yearly. That means k value will become 2. Okay. So I write here amount equal to P into 1 plus R by K by 100 whole to the power of Nk. Now what is the amount? 8,000 is the principal. And after a certain period of time, it is becoming 9,261. That means amount is 9,261. So amount is 9,261. Principal is 8,000. 1 plus. Now rate of interest is 10%. That means R is 10. And K value is 2. Because interest is compounded half yearly. So if interest is compounded half yearly, in 1 year you will calculate how many times? 2 times. That means K value will become 2. So R is 10, K is 2. 10 by 2 is how much? 5. So 5 by 100 whole to the power of n we don't know, we have to calculate, but K is 2. So it is 2n. It is 2n. Okay. Now this 8,000 will come down. 9,261 by 8,000 equal to 21 by 20 whole to the power of 2n. The value in bracket is 105 by 100. If simplified, you get 21 by 20 whole to the power of 2n. Now, the left hand side 9,261 by 8,000 if simplified will become 21 by 20 whole cube. Okay, 20 cube is 8,000, 21 cube is 9,261. So, and how do you get this idea? Very simple. On the right hand side you can see 21 by 20. So 99% on the left hand side also you should get 21 by 20. That is how you should get the idea. So 21 by 20 whole cube equal to 21 by 20 whole to the power of 2n. So 2n equal to 3, therefore n equal to 1.5 year. So what is the time period? I can say the time period is 1.5 years. So same procedure as the previous problem. The only change is interest is compounded half yearly. Okay. Now let us go for the next question. Will rupees 3,000 amount to rupees 3,993 in 3 years if the interest is compounded annually. Again same as the previous question. But the difference is here time is given and for a change we are asked to find out what is the rate of interest. So principal is 3,000. Principal is 3,000. After 3 years it becomes 3,993. After 3 years it becomes 3,993. Then what is the rate of interest? That is the question. Okay, now I try to do it by the same method. Now, we cannot do it by the approximation method. Principal 100 rupees, we can't do it because rate of interest is not given here. Now, so amount equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole to the power of n. I don't take K here because K is 1. Interest is compounded annually. That means K value is 1. Now amount is how much? 3,993. 3,993 by, by this we will write it afterwards. 3,993 equal to principal is 3,000 given. 1 plus rate of interest we don't know, we need to calculate, but n is already given, it is 3. So this 3,000 will come down this side on the left side. 3,993 by 3,000 equal to 1 plus R by 100 whole cube. Okay. Now here this is 1,000, 3,000 times and this is 1,331. Now 1331 by 1,000. I'm just doing the cancel dividing by 3. So 1331 by 1,000. 1331 by 1,000 is nothing but 11 by 10 whole cube. 11 by 10 whole cube equal to 1 plus R by 100 whole cube. 1 plus R by 100 whole cube. Now, therefore, and if you see here power 3, here power 3. Left hand side is equal to right hand side and powers are also equal. And when powers are equal, bases are also equal. So, 11 by 10 equal to 1 plus R by 100. And if you simplify this further, you will get rate of interest 10% per annum. If you want to write per annum. So we are asked to find what is the rate of interest at what rate percent per annum. So we are asked to find what is the rate of interest and I can say the rate of interest is 10% per annum. Okay, right. We will go for 10% per annum. Choice B is the answer. Now let us go for the next question. A sum of money placed at compound interest doubles itself in 4 years. In how many years will it amount to 4 times of itself? So to double itself, it takes 4 years. Then in how many years will it become 4 times of itself? That is the question. Now, we have discussed this type of problems under simple interest, but don't use the same procedure here. The procedure that we discussed under simple interest cannot be used here. That is simple interest, there the concept is different and here the concept is different. Okay. Now, right. To double itself, it takes 4 years. So to become 4 times itself, it will take how many years? So I assume the principal as 1 rupee. Let principal equal to 1 rupee. Now 1 rupee becomes 2 rupees in 4 years. Because it's clearly given it doubles itself in 4 years. So 1 rupee becomes 2 rupees in 4 years. Now at the end of 4 years, time, this 2 rupees is reinvested again. Okay, so this 2 rupees is reinvested. At the end of 4th year, this 2 rupees is reinvested. Then 2 rupees will become, again this 2 will again get doubled. So 2 rupees will become 4 rupees in another 4 years. Now you can see we started with 1 rupee and we are ending with 4 rupees. That means 1 rupee has become 4 rupees. In how many years? 8 years. Then we can say to double itself, if it takes 4 years, so to become 4 times of itself, it will take 8 years. Suppose if I ask you in how many years will it become 16 times of itself, if that is the question, then this 4 rupees is reinvested. So 4 rupees is reinvested. And this 4 rupees will get double in 4 years time. So 4 rupees will become 8 rupees in another 4 years. So we started with 1 rupee and ending with 8 rupees. That means the money has become 8 times of itself in how many years? 4 plus 4 plus 4, 12 years. 12 years. Suppose if I ask you in how many years will it become 16 times of itself? 16 times of itself. Then again this 8 rupees is reinvested. This 8 will get double in 4 years. That means 16 rupees in 4 years. Then we started with 1 rupee and ending with 16 rupees. That means the money has become 16 times of itself. In how many years? 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, total is 16 years. So that is the answer. That is how we do. And remember, this procedure should be used only for compound interest. Right? Okay. Now let us go for the next question. Difference between the compound interest and simple interest on a certain sum for 2 years at 10% per annum is rupees 300. Find this sum. So what is the principal? It is not given. But the difference between simple interest for 2 years and compound interest for 2 years is 300 rupees. Okay, then what is this sum? That is the question. That means instead of simple interest, if you calculate compound interest, you will get 300 rupees more. That is what mentioned in the problem. Okay, what is the principal? We don't know. Time is 2 years. Rate of interest is 10% per annum. And it is said in the problem that instead of calculating simple interest, if you calculate compound interest, you will get 300 rupees more. Because it is given the difference between compound interest and simple interest on a certain sum for 2 years at 10% per annum is rupees 300. Then find the sum. Okay. Now first I do this problem by traditional method just to make the understanding easy. After that I give you a formula also to find the principal here. Now simple interest, compound interest. Okay. First year, second year. First year, second year. Now, I told you that simple interest is same every year. Okay, simple interest is same every year. So, suppose if simple interest for first year is A rupees, then simple interest for second year is also A rupees. Because interest is same every year under simple interest. Then I also told you that simple interest and compound interest both are same for the first year. So if simple interest for first year is A rupees, compound interest for first year is also A rupees. Then what is the compound interest for second year? Second year again this A will repeat. Compound interest for second year. This A will repeat plus you will get some extra money. And what is that extra money? It is given 300. So the difference between simple interest and compound interest is 3. So simple interest and compound interest both are same for the first year, and second year it is compound interest for second year is A plus 300. Okay, now I give you the formula to find out the principal. When difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years is given, the formula to find out the principal is difference into 100 by R whole square. When difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years is given, then the formula to find out the principal is difference into 100 by R whole square. And the difference is clearly given 300 into 100 into 100. And what is the rate of interest? Rate of interest is given as 10%. So 10 into 10. So this and this will get cancelled, 30,000 rupees. Then I can say principal is 30,000 rupees. C is the answer. So by using this formula, you can get the principal. It is that. So and remember, this formula is used only when difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years is given. Okay, let's go to the next question. The difference between compound interest and simple interest for the amount rupees 5,000 in 2 years is rupees 32. What is the rate of interest? So once again, simple interest, the difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years is given. How much is that difference? 32 rupees. Then what is the rate of interest? So what is the difference between this problem and the previous problem? In the previous problem, rate of interest is given and we were asked to find out the principal. And in this problem, principal is given and we are asked to find out the rate of interest. So again, we use the same formula. Principal equal to difference into 100 by R whole square. Then principal is how much? Principal is already given 5,000 rupees. Principal is already given 5,000 and difference is 32 into 100 into 100 by R square. By R square. So you do these calculations, you get what is R. Okay, so these 3 zeros and this 2 0 and this will get cancelled. So 32 into 10 is how much? 320. 320 divided by 5 is how much? 64. So R square is 64. Therefore, I can say R is 8% per annum. So we are asked to find out what is the rate of interest, and I can say the rate of interest is 8% per annum. So these are the problems under simple interest and compound interest. So you practice the problem. The more you practice, the more the concepts will get clarified in your mind. Okay, the key for success is practice, practice, practice. Okay, so thank you very much. We close this session here.